So essentially she's trying to solve her own murder, which is a very interesting concept. The story itself had very, very low stakes. It almost felt like I was being put to sleep when I was reading it. But she's literally one of the most relatable characters I've ever read about. Just like her thought processes are so similar to mine. Hi guys, my name is Natalia and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing an August and September wrap up. I decided to do them together because in September I was actually in a bit of a reading slump. I only ended up reading 2 books and one of them was actually a reread. Usually I read like I think 4 or 5 books per month. Actually, in August I actually read 5 books, but I don't know, during September I just wasn't really feeling like reading. I guess there was just a lot going on in my life and my brain just shut off. So it's not like I didn't have time, but like I would spend this time like doom scrolling, which is not great. I do not recommend it, but I am slowly getting out of this reading slump, thank God. I do feel like kind of excited to read books again, so I'm glad that this reading slump didn't last for a long time. But yeah, there was definitely like a period where I wouldn't read anything for days, which is not normal for me, but it happens. Yeah, let's talk about the books I read in August and September. We've got like various genres actually: horror, fantasy, thriller, romance, dark academia. Like honestly, I do read like quite a lot of different genres. Obviously I do have some of my favorite genres that I read most often, but I do mix it up a lot. Like I read really a lot of various genres. That's why sometimes I'm worried about this channel, because I feel like maybe like I just cover too many genres, and maybe because of that it's not gonna appeal to like a certain group of people. I don't know, let me know. Like, do you like when people recommend so many different genres, or do you like prefer you booktubers that just focus on like 1 or 2 genres? Let's talk about the first book I read in August, which is Pet Sematary. I actually recently made a video about this book. I do mention some like key events from the book. I don't really spoil like the ending, but there are some key events. So if you're planning to read this book, maybe watch my video after. But basically my video, I talk about like the real life inspiration behind this book, and also why it was so disturbing that it almost never got published, and also why it eventually got published. So I will link it down below, but in this video, let's just talk about it briefly. So yeah, it is a horror written by Stephen King, as you can see. It talks about this man named Louis Cree. So he moves together with his family to this small town in Maine, and things start off normal until their elderly neighbor Judd tells them about this pet cemetery that is like hidden in the woods behind their house. It's been made by local kids who have been burying their pets there for generations. So that's why there is a misspelling, because the sign in front of the pet cemetery was misspelled by these children. Like at first Judd doesn't tell this to Louis, but later he does tell them that beyond this cemetery there is another burial ground that is like way darker, and it holds the power to bring back the dead. So when a tragedy strikes the Creed family, Louis, he starts messing around with these dark powers. But obviously it's not that simple. Like, you should not be messing with natural order. And honestly, what follows is just pure spiraling horror. The second half of the book goes in such a crazy, disturbing direction. And this book, it's also really sad, you know? Like, this book wrecked me emotionally. We're just hit with this like immense amount of grief, and you know, Lewis's choices, like, they obviously had me like screaming, but also on the other hand, I kind of got it. I kind of understood him, and weirdly, maybe I would even do the same if I was him. Like, he was a deeply like flawed character, honestly, but he was very complex and human in a way, and definitely relatable at times. When it comes to writing itself, so I think it's a very good like slow burn type of horror. Like, it, you can really feel the tension building up. It's very, very slow. But my issue with it, it's not just the fact that it was slow, because I don't mind slow books that much. But my problem with it was that there was a lot of rambling that I feel like didn't really add that much to the story. Like, if you take it out, it doesn't really change the story in any way. Like, it was just so much very unnecessary rambling that I'm like, if I was editing this book, I would just cut out so many of these weird stuff. And that definitely made it a lot like longer and a lot slower. So in a way, it was dragging a little bit. Like, you know, by the end, the book really picked up the pace, and I felt really pulled in. But definitely, like, the first half was a bit hard to get through because of how slow and rambly it was. Something that's like really memorable about this book is that this book just goes way beyond scares. Just the way King captures grief, like the kind of grief that just makes you just forget reason and start doing irrational things. Just because you miss this person so much and you want them back. I think that's what makes this book so unforgettable. It's like the kind of horror that leaves a mark, not because of the monsters, although like the scary parts were scary too, but I think it is truly unforgettable because it makes you think, would I have done the same thing? It is very interesting to think about. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, and I don't know, like, it seems like a very low rating because like, in hindsight, I feel like I enjoyed it so much. I might actually change it into 4 stars. I think it's just at the time when I finished reading it, I just felt like it was just too slow and too rambly, and it should have been way shorter. So that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. But if you are okay with it being like slow, I still would recommend it because it is a very good and impactful book. It is a very well written horror in general, so I do recommend it. Next book, Rebel Witch. Okay, so this is the sequel to Heartless Hunter, which is like a witchy enemies to lovers fantasy duology. I gave Heartless Hunter 4 stars, so I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was anything like spectacular, but it was a very enjoyable read. And then I picked up Rebel Witch, and I was actually very pleasantly surprised, and I enjoyed it a lot more than Heartless Hunter, and I ended up actually giving it 5 stars. Let's talk about like what this book is about. So Rune, our like witch, is like deeply involved in this rebellion, and Gideon, who is actually a witch hunter, he has now orders to kill her. But they have had like a little fling in the first book, and just because they are on the opposite sides of the rebellion, it doesn't like mean that their feelings are gone. There is still some feelings lingering between them. This book is just filled with like romance, war, magic, and like political chaos. It is really like action-packed and fast-paced. From chapter 1, from the very first page, it's all just action, rebellion, danger, and emotional chaos. So I was really locked in from the very beginning. In the first book, I actually felt like the romance was a little bit rushed. I felt like maybe they should develop some more like emotional connection first. But in this book, actually, the romance finally clicked for me. They have really great chemistry, and yeah, all the like enemies tension, it's insane. But also I want to point out that Gideon has grown a lot as a character, and his growth is really amazing, and I think that's definitely what also contributes to me liking the romance a lot more. I also do really like character of Rune, so our female protagonist. I just really admire her courage and her willingness to fight despite like all her fears and doubts. She's a very resilient character. I also feel like compared to the first book, the world building was a little bit like expanded, and we got some more depth to the magic system and some more like politics and history. So that was nice, because I did feel like in the first book the world building was a little bit underdeveloped, so I'm glad that it was more developed in this book. While the first book like didn't really blow me away, this sequel really solidified my love for this duology. As you can see, I do not have a physical copy because I read on my Kindle, but I think I might have to like save some money and purchase a physical copy, just because I love this duology so much, so I just want to add it to my collection. If you are into like fantasy enemies to lovers, full of like political intrigue and lots of action, definitely check out the Heartless Hunter duology. The next book I read was actually just a very short novella. It's called The Situationship. It's actually part of the Part of Your World series. So this is a romance series by Abby Jimenez. I've read all the 3 books in the series, and this is an additional novella that you can read when you're done with the series. And it basically just talks about these 2 characters that were introduced in the series, so Maddie and Doug. And it's just showing like how they met and kind of started talking together and getting to know each other. It was very short, but honestly I had a blast reading this. It was so funny and so cute and adorable. I honestly wish that Maddie and Doug got like an entire full-length book because of how entertaining they were to read about. I give it 4 stars. Honestly, I wish it was a bit longer, or like I said, that they actually got a full-length book. But still, it was a very cute, light read, you know, just in between books. And if you enjoyed Part of Your World series, I do recommend checking this out. Okay, next one. Oh my god, probably one of the best books I've read this year. Not Quite Dead Yet by my queen Holly Jackson. Let's talk about it. So this is actually her first adult thriller, but I will be honest, I still got a lot of like YA vibes. I don't know why. Let me know if I'm the only one. Is it because she's only written YA thrillers before? I don't know. It is technically an adult thriller, but I don't know. I was getting YA vibes anyway, but like I said, I did love this book. So let's talk about the plot, because it is the premise is very unique, I think. We've got this girl named Jet, and she is brutally attacked on Halloween night. And due to her injuries, she's only got 1 week left to live. Now, she can also have like surgery, but like the survival rate is not looking good, so she could just die during the surgery. So what she decides to do is, instead of taking this risk, she decides to take this 1 last week of life, and she decides to find the person who did this to her, find the person who attacked her. So essentially she's trying to solve her own murder, which is a very interesting concept. This entire book is just like a chilling emotional race against the clock. The clock is ticking because she's only got 1 week to solve this case. She's also got this friend by her side, her friend named Billy, and actually their relationship was like a huge highlight of this book for me, because just they were so cute and pure together, and just the way like Billy really supported her and just stood by her side in this very difficult situation. It was just really wholesome. But I also love the Jet. She's an amazing character. She's like sharp, sarcastic, vulnerable, angry, funny, determined. Like, I was really rooting for her. And yeah, like I said, just like her dynamic with Billy was really a highlight of this book for me. Like, they're quiet and honest and just like heartwarming moments. Gave the book so much warmth in contrast to this like all the dread and fear and solving this creepy mystery and everything. Jet's personality, she felt so real, and her emotional journey just really broke me. This book is very sad. I didn't mention it, but I cried while reading this book. It is a thriller, but it is such an emotional book. I was bawling my eyes out when I was reading it. And okay, so the final twist, like at some point I have to admit I kind of predicted it. But honestly, in Holly Jackson's book, there are always like so many different twists and revelations that like there's no way you can predict all of them. There were still so many things that really shocked me and made my jaw drop. So, like I said, nevertheless, reading this book was a crazy journey. So if you are looking for a thriller that also has like very likable characters, like main characters, because not all characters are likable obviously, and some heartbreaking moments as well, but also twisted mystery with some crazy revelations, then I can definitely recommend Not Quite Dead Yet. Like I said, one of the best books I've read this year. Holly Jackson never disappoints. I love her so much. Okay, and the last book I read in August was Out on a Limb. And this was definitely my least favorite book that I read in August. I give it 3 stars. This is a romance book. Not everyone may like the premise. The premise is that our protagonist Win hooks up with this guy Bo, and she ends up getting pregnant. She decides to keep the baby, and the guy Bo decides to like step in. He's like, yeah, I want to be a part of this child's life. Let's like take care of it together. So they agree to be friends while raising this child, but things get messy because they obviously catch feelings for each other. Definitely something that I loved about this book was that it has like disability representation. So Win has like this like tiny hand and Bo has prosthetic leg. So I'm glad that we got to see these characters and how they navigate their lives with disability. On one hand, I really enjoyed this book. I did feel like the romance was portrayed really beautifully, and it portrays this like really soft, selfless type of love between two people that just heal each other. But the story itself had very, very low stakes. I just felt like it was a little too soft and too sweet for me. It almost felt like I was being put to sleep when I was reading it. And then like, I don't know, some of the humor, like I feel like humor in books, especially in romance books, can be a hit or miss to me. And this one was more of a miss, honestly. There were so many lines that made me cringe. I don't know if I can dig them up. I will put them on the screen here. Feel free to pause and read it, but do it at your own risk. And don't even get me started on the intimate scenes, because they sounded like they were written by a teenage girl on Wattpad. Meaning not great quality. Like, I don't know. I didn't really enjoy it. I'm sorry. I feel like the idea behind the book and the theme was good, and it resonated with me. But my problem was probably just the execution and the writing style. They just weren't for me. Might not reach for this author again. Maybe her style just doesn't resonate with me. Nonetheless, like, it's not the worst book. If you are looking for a book with some disability representation and some like very, very low stakes, soft type of love, you can check it out. Would I like 100% recommend it? Probably nope. But there's actually a lot of people that did enjoy this book, so it's just my personal opinion that I didn't really like it. But there are apparently people out there who liked it, so feel free to check it out if you want to. Okay, now let's move on to the books that I've read in September. Like I said, I only read 2 books. And one of them is actually an arc, and the other one is a reread. So let's start with the arc. I got it through NetGalley, and the book is called Hexes and Hush Money Cozy Witch Mystery Fantasy. Very interesting. I think what like made me apply for this arc was the cover. You can see it on the screen, but like, I mean, the cover with the coffee and the cat, it just felt so magical. I was immediately pulled in and I was so intrigued and I wanted to read it. It just felt like the cutest idea ever, and I actually ended up really enjoying it. This book is actually this author's debut novel, and I think for a debut novel she did a good job. I do recommend you check it out if you are interested in this type of book. It is like a very cozy fantasy. It tells the story of Ivy, who runs this like magical cat cafe in a cozy coastal town. She has like magical powers, but she's trying to keep them like under the radar. She doesn't really tell people about it, but like, let's say she's making a coffee and she adds like a little spell for local people. It's a very cozy setting for sure, but obviously things get a bit messy, and when like a local is found dead and Ivy's like beloved cat, who is also her familiar, goes missing, gets kidnapped, everything starts spiraling. I think it was such a cozy, atmospheric read, perfect for a fall evening with a blanket and a hot chocolate. Many of the characters just felt so sweet. The town itself felt really comforting, and Hazel Caraway's writing just really shined with these warm, vivid details. I actually really enjoyed her writing. I think she did a great job at crafting a place that you would really want to stay in. That said, it was not perfect. I ended up giving it 3.75 stars, so I guess you could round it up to 4 stars. Essentially, the plot was a little bit simple and a little bit predictable, and I definitely wish the magic system had a bit more depth. I feel like it wasn't really explained very well. It's a short book, and I feel like you can feel that because some of the relationship or backstories just didn't get as much space as they needed. So if you're looking for like shocking plot twists and deep world building, that's not it. It's just like a very light, cozy, witchy mystery. So if you are okay with that and you just want something that will make you feel soft and cozy inside, I can definitely recommend it. And then the last book I read was a reread. The reason I wanted to reread it is because I will be reading the sequel soon. The sequel is A Theory of Dreaming. Actually, I got the special edition. I will be reading this very soon, and I'm so excited. I decided to reread the first book just because I did forget a lot of what happened, and just in general, it was one of my top reads last year, so I just wanted to reread it. And honestly, I loved it just as much as when I first read it. So it is like gothic themed dark academia fantasy book about this girl named Effie, and she really wants to study literature, but only men are accepted for literature degrees. So she ended up choosing architecture program, And she's also obsessed with the work of this like writer, Amris Merton. Don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, but he's like her favorite author. He wrote her favorite book that basically saved her during like the darkest moments of her life. And when Effie wins a contest to redesign this author's crumbling estate, she just jumps at the chance to escape her present life. But what she finds there, like when she goes to this late author's estate, she's actually really dumbfounded with the state of that building, because it's like flooded, it's rotted, it's crumbling, it's in terrible state. What she also finds there is another student named Preston, who is trying to prove that this author was a fraud. So, at first Effie obviously was offended, like, because he's her favorite author. How can you think he's a fraud? But then like they decide to work together, and they like decide to dig into the manor's history and into this author's history, and they just start uncovering a lot of like disturbing dark secrets. And just what starts as a literary research turns into something dangerous and deeply personal. What I love about this book, like this book is haunting in the best way possible. What I love about it the most is probably the atmosphere itself. Again, perfect fall read. So if you want to read it, I suggest you read it during the fall time, because it has insane fall vibes. But yeah, this book, it's unsettling, and even though the pace may feel a little bit slow, I never felt bored actually. I got swept up in these like careful descriptions, in this eerie mystery. It's the perfect blend of dark academia, fantasy, and gothic mystery. I think what also really stayed with me were the themes. So it's not just the mystery, it's about so many things. It's about trauma, it's about anxiety, misogyny, and how academia can silence voices it pretends to uplift. I also loved the two main characters, Effie and Preston. Actually, the character of Effie, when I was reading for the first time, I felt it, but when I was rereading it again, I felt it even more deeply, I think. But she's literally one of the most relatable characters I've ever read about. Just like her thought processes are so similar to mine. Just the way she sometimes doubts herself, the way she has like these anxious thoughts popping in, and the way she like gets defensive about things she loves or cares about. Like all these little things I just can relate to so much, and I see so much of myself in Effie. Honestly, it's crazy. I've read so many books, but I think this is the first one when I really feel like, wow, this character is so similar to me and I relate to her so much. And Preston, he's really not like your typical bad boy type of male interest in a fantasy book. He has a very like quiet, soft personality. But I love him so much. I love how much care and respect he has for Effie. I think it's something that she definitely needed, and I feel like it's something that she's never experienced in her life. So it is definitely like the relationship, it definitely has moved me a lot. And I think like their quiet connection and them slowly falling in love with each other was beautiful, and definitely a huge highlight of this book for me. I mean, this is just one of my favorite books of all time that I will always recommend, especially if you love like beautifully written slow burn stories with haunting vibes and heavy themes. This is definitely a book for you. Usually at the end of my wrap-ups, I tell you my favorite and my least favorite book that I read. So my favorite book I would say definitely my favorite book is A Study in Drowning, but because it is a reread, I will skip it. So my favorite book that is not a reread was probably not quite that yet. It was such an amazing book that really brought out so many emotions in me. And my least favorite book was definitely Out on a Limb. Like I said, the writing just didn't do it for me, even though the story was quite charming. And I did like the disability representation. The writing was just too cringy. And the story itself was just too slow. Like nothing was happening. Like I said, I felt like I was being put to sleep. So that was definitely not a read for me. I didn't really enjoy it. These were all the books that I read in August and September. Let me know if you've read any of these books or are you planning to read any of them. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. And I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye.